Auston Matthews last night, I don't know how else to describe it other than he snapped out of it because I thought he was terrible in the first period. The whole team was awful. Like
Garbage.
the Leafs were horrendous in the first period. And there was an interaction. I saw Delorier was one of them. I couldn't pick up who the other guy was. I don't know if it was Couturier or Lawton. Someone was chirping at him in the Leafs zone around the net. Someone was going at Matthews. He was going back and forth. And about 8 minutes later, it was 3-1, and he had 3. And I'm like,
you think that woke him up?
I don't know. I was like, because he's not generally a guy that reacts that way. And he had a couple of comments back and forth. And for all I know, it was pleasantries. I doubt it. But it looked to me like someone was saying something to him and going at him. And he basically gave like a street ball vibe, like, all right, let's go. Like, let's see what you got. Yeah. And literally 8 minutes later, it was 3-1, and he had 3.
You could tell that he picked it up. I could just tell he started boogieing a little bit, just skating, and you could tell he wanted to do something about what was happening last night because Johnny talked about it, and it was evident on the ice. There was no time and space last night, so they want to play that way because they have to play that way because Torts demands they play that way. And Auston Matthews took control of the game, and he ultimately – they tried to piss it away, but William Nylander got it back in overtime. But I'll tell you one thing. There's Kucherov, McKinnon, who are the top of the class, and McDavid's coming up the rear, and so is Auston Matthews as far as putting his name in there, and Quinn Hughes. Because I look at it this way. If Matt Barzal had 45 goals right now for the New York Islanders, and he was the only reason that the Islanders were getting victories, he would be like the runaway Hart Trophy winner. But everyone's just so used to Auston Matthews scoring goals that it's just like, he's doing it again, scoring goals. And I'm not saying he's going to win the Hart. Those guys at the top are going to win it, Kucherov or McKinnon. But he deserves to at least be in the top 5 with those guys. Because everyone's just like, he's doing what he's doing, he scores goals. He's the only reason they win games some nights. And last night was proof of that.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that. Like, you know, if he ends up getting, I mean, he's on pace for what, 71?
71.
Let's just say he hits 66, because I don't know. I want him to hit 70, but even if he falls short. Mm-hmm. But it's still an amazing season. The Leafs are not world beaters. They are not. They are in that group with a bunch of other teams, including Philadelphia. You saw it. Philadelphia gets a point last night. They're right there in the standings so. You know, they're going to be in a fight down the stretch here to either get third or second in their division, or, you know, be fighting in the wild card spot. Like, that's helping your team to get into the playoffs. Like, that is prerequisite for, you know, what we've been talking about for years of being important to your team. Auston Matthews, big part of that.
I couldn't agree more. I'm in the studio. I was just doing a SportsCenter hit on this, so I actually have some ammo here to bring to the table. FanDuel has him at 12-1 odds to win the Hart Trophy, which to me is massive value. Again, as of now, I would go probably McKinnon, Kucherov, but I think you can make a strong case he's 3. If not, certainly McDavid, Quinn Hughes, Connor Hellebuck deserves a lot of love the way he's played this year and the way that team cannot score goals. So there's other great players, clearly, but this guy, I think, defining his value to the team, is he playing better overall than he did 2 years ago when he won a Hart? I'm not convinced of that. Like, he was so dominant on both ends of the ice 2 years ago when he won his Hart, but it's certainly close. But I would definitely say he's more valuable to his team today than he was 2 years ago. That team 2 years ago had 115 points. They were an absolute juggernaut. That was a franchise record. He was unbelievable that year, but Marner was great. They had depth. They were healthy. Everything broke their way. Their goaltending was intact. This year, they're middle of the pack defensively. They've had to ride a third-string goaltender a lot. They're barely into the playoffs, and this cat's on pace for 71 goals. He's more valuable this year than he was 2 years ago. And, again, we don't go to these stats all the time, but I think it's valuable when we're having this conversation. I have some stats. I went digging today.
God.
I went digging.
What do you got?
Era
Jonas
adjusted.
Gave them to
Era
you.
adjusted.
Come
Era
on.
adjusted.
You know,
Era
like, Jonas
adjusted.
is rubbing off on this guy here.
Jonas and I,
yesterday.
this time yesterday, Jonas and I were yelling at each other about.
I heard
about everything. It was wild. Like, it was people driving around the city must have been like, what the hell's going on with these guys?
Jonas got some love on Twitter, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, Jonas. And I love Jonas. And
what would you have been yelling about with Jonas yesterday?
It got started it was on Kucherov, and then it got on voting practices. It was, and Al's brother's sitting there just staring at us like, what are these two guys doing? And you know, Jonas, he and I, we provoke each other and we end up getting into it. But let me finish this quickly. Era adjusted, okay? Courtesy of Hockey Reference, where what they try to do is encapsulate like each individual great season and apply it so you can even it out. Because scoring goals today is not the same as scoring in 1983 or 1953. And according to Hockey Reference, the greatest goal scoring season of all time was actually Brett Hall in 1990-91, where
86, right?
Exactly. And that would have been era-adjusted 78 goals, which is just absurd. That 86-goal season, they said that's the greatest goal-scoring season ever. Number 2 all-time was Ovechkin in 07-08. That's when he had 65. So 72, Matthews is on pace for 71. In other words, what this site is saying, based on their calculations, he's on pace for one of the top 3 greatest goal-scoring seasons ever. That's how good he is. That's what he's doing. And it's
why do you need that site to tell you that?
Honestly, because it puts into perspective what we're like. I think the Ovechkin one's the best example. Ovi, his greatest season, he ran away with the Hart. It was, I don't think it was unanimous, but it was basic. It was like Malkin was in there, Stammer might have been in there, a couple guys. I didn't think Stamkos was in the league. But the point being is that's the greatest goal scorer of all time, in my opinion. His greatest season. And this guy's matching it. So that's the perspective I'm talking about here is you're right. It's almost like we're just like, that's what this guy does. Of course he's going to rip home these goals. It's freakish what he's doing.
Think
it is
about
freakish.
Matt Barzal with the Islanders. If he had 45 right now, I guarantee you people in the press would be saying, well, this guy's probably at the top of the charts.
Of course.
Because it would be different, and it's like, holy cow, and this and that. He would be leading the charge, man. Yeah. People would bypass Kucherov and McKinnon. But because it's Matthews and he does it every single game he's out there, people are just like, that's kind of what that guy does.
Better than it's ever been.
No, I get it. Hey, I'm not Jonas. I
know that. I'm just saying, like, on top of, like, I agree with everything you said, but like as good as he was 2 years ago, he's on an even better pace this year, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, all valid points, and I don't think there's a counter argument other than the fact that you are going to look at the other players as well.
And they all deserve
Tampa
love.
Is in exactly. Like you look at Tampa, they've had injuries, like players missing, missed their goal. Like their season's kind of mirrored the Leafs season when you look at it. And you can make a case for all of these, but you're right. You make a strong case, and I don't think anybody can counter argue that. Because the Leafs are not that 115-point team. They do need him most nights to score because outside of Bobby McMahon, it's been quiet down on the bottom 9, bottom 6, we'll call it. So, these are great arguments.